How's it, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the PH Journals podcast. It's been a wild couple of days. Unfortunately, I didn't air a podcast last weekend because I was just feeling a little bit flat, so unfortunately that didn't go according to plan. But anyway, guys, we've got some exciting things to discuss in this week's episode of the podcast. Whether you are a first-time safari comer or a seasoned PH or even a seasoned hunter coming out, this one's just got a bit of everything, and we're all trying to find out how the first 48 hours can determine how successful how successful the hunt can really be. So, before we get into it, this week's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Balsac. I reached out to these guys a couple of weeks ago, and they were kind enough to send me an incredible bag. It's really made from some of the most toughest, durable ripstop materials there is. The stitching is unbelievably quality, and what lured me to them was these oaks are... I need to find out a little bit later. It wasn't actually a Land Cruiser, but it was a Land Rover. And these guys were tossing this bag off the back of the Land Rover and towing it around town, and it withstood some incredible conditions. And with me moving over to a Hilux now, it has definitely limited a lot of my packing space. So having the Balsac is ideal as a professional hunter, because you just chuck your stuff in there, throw it on the back of the bakkie, and you head out for your hunting adventures. So this week's episode is sponsored by Balsac. If you guys haven't yet, go and check them out on all their social media platforms. I found them on TikTok, but I know they're on Instagram and all the other sort of jazzes. So head along, go and give them a follow, and if you enjoy their product, purchase it. If you are from the States, purchase it, send it out to your outfitter, and when you come over for your safari adventure, you'll be leaving with a brand new Balsac. Okay, guys, well, let's get into it. So, guys, when I thought of this very first statement I was going to make is how to determine whether the first 48 hours of the safari is going to determine whether it's a successful one or not. I thought there would be a little bit, there might be quite a bit of controversy that might follow. Guys get up in arms and say, oh, well, how can you say that? You know, it's all about the success of the hunt. Yes, of course it is, but 48 hours, a lot can be determined within it. So take it for what it is. I've experienced this time and time again. I've seen things happen, unfold. It does get a little bit sticky, and unfortunately, you might just possibly have that misfortune of pairing with somebody you're not quite compatible with. It happens. It's the safari industry. It's just part and parcel of how these things happen. Now, I'm not saying that you need to blame anyone around you, because there's various amounts of different things that can play out into your hands on whether this is going to be a good safari or not. But at the end of the day, to make what it is, or to make the most of it, is completely up to you as the professional hunter, as the client, as the hunter, as the tracker, whoever's listening to this podcast. Completely in your hands. And if the 48 hours don't turn out the way you expect them to, well, you've got another couple of days to make it up. So I've broken this segment down into various different platforms, and I think what you need to try and take from this is how to avoid these scenarios from happening. I am going to turn this aircon off because that's better. The humming noise is driving me absolutely crazy. Cool. So, guys, first things first, and it starts off with something that's probably out of anyone's control, and that's the airport. You've been through this how many times, and especially on first coming safaris, people tend to book through agents, and doesn't always really quite work. I'm a traveler. I love traveling. So for me, the airports aren't something that's I see as a as a pain in my life. I actually get quite excited when I start traveling. I enjoy the rush of trying to find your gate and your terminal and all that sort of stuff. So what we need to talk about is, how do you handle travel? Now, as a professional hunter, I like to communicate with my guys as much as possible during the travel period. So we can also anticipate what we can expect on the other side. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, like I said, travel, it's just part and parcel of travel is you might lose your bags, flights might get delayed, miserable hostesses, terrible turbulent flights, don't get much rest, don't get much sleep. So many things can happen. So if your professional hunter or outfitter can be predetermined on the other side on what the travel is actually going like, it might just help you recover that much easier. I'll give you a perfect example. A couple of years ago, Pat, who's been on the podcast before, he came out and we were in communication the whole time. And he's like, hey dude, go to Joburg, they've left our bags behind. Now, as an outfitter and a professional hunter, you immediately hit panic stations, not because of anything else, but because you don't want your clients to be uncomfortable, especially, like I said, in this 48-hour period. So we knew what we had to do. So the plan was to land. Fortunately, Pat's done many safaris, so the way he structured his packing was very well done, and I highly recommend you guys follow this sort of technique. Is he had it was himself, his wife Ash, and his daughter Lily, and they had split their packing over the three of them. So each one of them had a couple of days change of clothing every single bag. But we knew what to expect, right? So Pat landed in Joburg. He was catching the connecting flight down to Port Elizabeth that night or that afternoon. We were immediately on the airlines, phoning around, trying to make sure that they locate these bags and that it gets brought to us at the airport. And so once that happened, we kind of like justified everything and got around and everything worked out. But we knew that when Pat landed in Port Elizabeth, he was going to be miserable, like anyone would be, because there's nothing worse than you've had a 20-something hour flight and all you want to do is change your scants at the end of the flight, or have a nice decent shower and get into comfortable clothes. But you can't do that because your suitcase is in another country. So yeah, jet lag expectations, the overwhelming feeling of the logistics of how things happen, if there are any connecting flights happening and all that sort of stuff. I have to just press OK. Sorry about that. And just making sure that everything falls into place pretty swiftly, pretty smoothly, and we can take it from there and handle it as best as possibly can. Camp culture, first nights, psychology is, do you go out? Are you getting smashed at the bar your first night so that you can sleep? Do you constantly are there constantly things that are bugging you within your room? Get those all ironed out as quickly as possible once you're there. So if you guys get there mid-afternoon, early morning, mid-afternoon, or late evening, make sure that you get as comfortable as you possibly can in your rooms, and your professional hunter make sure that every possible scenario is weighed out. As a professional hunter, go into the room with your client. Even if you've checked it before, go in with him. Make sure there's soap in the shower, there's toilet rolls, the beds are clean and made, the carpets are clean, there's no clutter, there's nothing around, everything's nice, cleanly marked, the washing bags are nicely marked. And just run through some basic essential items that you need to happen within your room. Get your clients as comfortable as you possibly can, and then as clients get as comfortable as possible. Don't feel bad to send your professional hunter down to the main lodge to try and get any essential items that's going to make your life a little bit more comfortable so that you can get a good night's rest, because that first day, the next day, is going to be crucial. We'll get into that a little bit later. A lot of people I know with airplane food, they tend to either get clogged up or the laws of gravity often don't play out in their favor, and their bowels tend to react to the aeroplane food. So make sure that you're as comfortable as possible. I feel so bad talking about that topic, but anyway, it's part and parcel of the scenario. Try and eat, get a good meal in. I promise you now, majority of the outfitters out there have got some incredible food, so indulge in it, embrace it. Go and try some of the venison that will be there. It might be a little bit rich for your stomach straight off the bat, but a little bit of iron into the blood system is not going to hurt you anymore. So enjoy it. Have one or two drinks, but don't overcook it. Even if you are a professional hunter, guys, don't overcook it the first night. Try and be civil. Try and be hasty. Get down. And knuckle down and make sure you iron out all the creases. Part of the first night psychology is sit down with your professional hunter. Sit down with your outfitter. If there are any grey lines that you have had between booking your trip, the flight, and arriving, you need to iron them out on the first night. There must be no grey areas from the first night onwards. That's just my personal opinion. It's what I've seen. It's what I've experienced. So by the time you get to camp, if there are any pricing concerns you might have, any contract concerns that you might have, hunting conditions, hunting philosophy, walk and stalk, all that sort of stuff needs to be discussed with your professional hunter. Packages, if you have book packages, highlight what you're concerned about, what you would like to swap and change, or do everything that they can make it as best as custom fitting as possible for you, so that you know your very first day in the bush is going to be one without any gray areas. Because at the end of the safari, it's those gray areas that tend to flare up and can often turn an extremely good safari into a sour one. So sit down with your professional hunter. Even if it takes you an hour within the first evening, you might be as tired as hell and just want to hit the sack. You can do it the next morning, but make sure you do it before you either hit the range or you go out for your first safari or your first little hunt. Talk inches, talk measurements, get all that out of the way as well. Try and indulge as much as you possibly can with your professional hunter. I personally still believe fetching clients from the airport is a very special thing professional hunters have the opportunity to do. Not only do you get to know and meet your clients or the people you're going to be spending the next 7 to 10 or 15, 21 days or whatever it may be with, but also you get to break that personal barrier. Now, yeah, let's get into that a little bit later as I'll talk on to it. So, first morning in the field, don't rush. Take your time. If you head into the range, take your time at the range. Make sure that you leave the range as confident as possible. Me, myself, I'm not a target shooter. I hate shooting at targets. And I've seen many clients also despise the range as much as possible. But get out there, utilize it as an opportunity to clean the barrel, put yourself onto the shooting sticks, get yourself into a hunting position, and just run through the phases. You know, it's almost like that first golf swing. You just got to warm yourself up to get ready for the first day's hunt. And then as a professional hunter, this offers you the opportunity to also gauge your client's shooting ability. So put him into different scenarios, use the sandbags to clean the barrels, and then put them onto the sticks and see how comfortable they are with adapting to the sticks as quickly as possible and adapting to different shooting scenarios. Try and stretch it out to nothing more than probably 250 yards. That's what I enjoy doing. I go to 100 on the bags and then on the sticks 200 yards. I'm happy. If they're hitting those gongs or that dinner dish plate at the top, you're happy. Don't put any more added pressure onto the clients when they arrive. If they're a seasoned safari adventurer or if they're a seasoned hunter, it's just good to run through the basics and you get familiar with their shooting ability, their stance. Take note of the smaller what's the word I'm looking for? Take note of the smaller attentions to detail. So How does he look through the scope? Is he comfortable on the sticks? Posture on the sticks, all that sort of stuff that plays a huge role into making sure that that animal gets taken ethically. So utilize those opportunities, and like I said, take notes of the smaller stuff, and the bigger stuff will all fall into place. Cool. So I've got 2 points here under the first morning field, but I think we'll save that for the professional hunter relationship side of things. Understand what your clientele's expectation is, and as well from understand what your professional hunter's expectations of you are. Guys, be very mindful of this, and I think it's very, very important to understand one another as quickly as possible. So for me personally, I'm one that gets disconnected very easily when people start telling me how to do my job. So especially on your first hunt, if you've hunted the property multiple times, for them to tell you how the animals have behaved when you've noticed and you've studied their grazing patterns, their feeding or their patterns to watering holes and all this sort of stuff, and you've been fortunate enough to be based on the property for as long as possible, and yet they still telling you, well, maybe we should go over this ridge side and come up onto them and stuff, when you know that they're going to be feeding down along the valley ridge or whatever it is, whatever the scenario is. Just trust in your professional hunter. But we'll get into that a little bit later as pH etiquette comes in. But understanding expectations versus reality is a very, very important aspect to follow from a client's perspective and as well as a professional hunter's perspective. Expect the unexpected. Expect a lot of photos, expect a lot of driving around, stopping, ooh, that's not big enough. Expect a lot of frustrating points that will come. You're going to see plenty of different animals, plenty of different species, but trust in the process. Enjoy the small moments, the process that leads along the way. You know, if you cross that puddle 300 times, on 301 times, appreciate it, because these are the small moments that build memories for the longevity of it. Understand that from a client and a professional hunting side, social media has become a very important role in conservation, but not only conservation, as putting out personal brands. Especially as a professional hunter, I feel their best form of advertising is through social media. So be respectful of that, be mindful of that as a hunter, that if that professional hunter wants to spend 20 to 30 minutes more on taking the correct photos, the respectful photos for those animals, cleaning the blood, all that sort of stuff, it means a lot more to the end result. Trust me, trust the process. That's what I mean. Okay, now I'm going to talk about pH etiquette when it comes to the first 48 hours. And from a client's perspective, I want you to try and see your professional hunter's point of view, and then vice versa. From a professional hunter's point of view, I would like to see your client's point of view. But let's go over a couple of examples that might just be from a professional hunter's side where things might get a little bit grey. Don't oversell numbers, don't oversell inches, and don't oversell opportunities. Don't sell fake opportunities, inches, and numbers to make yourself look good. Because I promise you now, when reality comes around, you could fall horribly short of the goals of not only the client but the outfitter as well, and many of your peers around the campfire. And when you oversell yourself, you fall extremely short and you look like an idiot. And in the first 48 hours, that is not a good image to carry on for the rest of the 10-day safari. I can promise you that. I've seen it many times. I've seen many professional hunters promise way too much more than what they should, fall horribly short, and start blaming everyone else. It's everyone else's fault. Meanwhile, they're the ones that look like absolute idiots. Be careful about bragging. There's this extreme fine line in the professional hunting era of bragging and confidence. There's nothing more contagious than a confident PH, because a confident PH tells incredible stories and has incredible moments. But just understand, underneath that confident professional hunter, there's a lot of hard work that's gone into that to produce those stories. But there is a fine line where that confidence can turn very quickly into bragging. So just be very careful of that. First impressions play a huge role. And trust me when I say this, clients have become more and more susceptible to being aware of what bullshit is and what's not bullshit. So be genuine to yourself, be genuine to the situation, and be genuine to your clients. You owe them that. They're spending the money, they're coming out here, they're making sure that they want to leave with memories that will last a lifetime. Your job is to give them those memories, but do so humbly. Be as humble as you possibly can, because if you undersell and over deliver, it's a much more impactful realm to carry on with your legacy than overselling and under delivering. Sorry. Listen, big one. I never learned it until very late into my career, but I was very, very fortunate to have been thrown into the deep end with a lot of older and respectful professional hunters, which taught me valuable lessons to listen very, very carefully. And there goes my iPad. Let's flick the phone out while I'm doing the phone story. So listen to your clients, listen to your fellow professional hunters. And although it might not seem like it, but I promise you at the time, I know that majority of the professional hunters want you to succeed as best as possible. Not only as a professional hunter, but as a client as well. Nobody wants to leave camp with an unhappy client, whether it's your client or not. As a professional hunter, as a individual working for those companies, you don't want those clients to leave unhappy, whether you're a part of the group or not. I promise you now. And I speak for probably majority of the professional hunters. I know there are some guys out there that don't see it that way, but for who I know and what I know there's a lot of great professional hunters. Majority of them are exceptional professional hunters, and they would want nothing more than fellow professional hunters and fellow outfitters to succeed as much as possible, because it shines this bright light on the rest of the industry as a whole. So listen, make sure you listen to your client, even though he's gonna I'm contradicting myself here, but even though he tells you to go over that ridge where there's a ridge you don't want to, still listen to him and advise otherwise. If he's not comfortable, if he's not confident in the shot or whatever it may be, respect that, listen to that, take it in and utilize it as best as you possibly can to make sure that the next position you put your client in is a good one, so that he can get more confidence into himself. Big one. Don't ignore significant others. Don't ignore observers. I have seen this so many times where professional hunters would not acknowledge observers, whether it's daughters, wives, aunties, uncles, grannies, whatever, whoever it is. Don't treat them like they're not part of the safari. It happens because a lot of the time the perception is the individual pulling the trigger is the one paying the bill at the end of the day, and it shouldn't be like that. This is a joint venture. 9 times out of 10, the Minister of Finance is actually the wife. A lot of men are going to disagree with me on that point, but I promise you now, they're the ones that either pull the handbrake or they don't. So understand that embracing in the family, in the moment, in everything, I often refer to my stories with Sharon. She changed a lot of my perspective as a young professional hunter. I was very fortunate to hunt with Jared Hubble and his family, and that family taught me a lot. I was fortunate enough to guide his daughter onto their first animal, Pat's daughter onto her first animal, and it was a very beautiful moment. It's moments as professional hunters a lot of us live for, so don't throw that away. There's a lot more of that to come, and it's unique. It's unique to the industry. It's unique to those moments, and I think as professional hunters, we often want to win the race before we've even started, and we worry about the 50-inch kudu bull or the 44-inch Cape Buffalo, all that sort of stuff, instead of just appreciating the smaller moments that have led to those bigger moments. And I've spoken about this many, many times on the podcast before. So, yeah. So don't ignore the significant other, the observer. Don't ignore them. Appreciate them. Appreciate the questions they ask, because if they ask a lot of questions, it's always fun to have a chat with them in the car and build relationships with the family. Because like I said, the goal at the end of the day, besides animals, besides all of this, the goal is for you to build new friendships, meet incredible people, conservation at heart, and of course leave with lifetime memories that last a lifetime. So yeah, make sure you spend quite a bit of time asking reciprocal questions back to the significant others. And those of you that are coming along on safari as observers, don't be shy. Ask the questions. You're not hindering anybody. I promise you now. It's a lot of fun having you guys in the car and being a part of the safari. Just when you are stalking and you do go along with the hunt, just make sure you are quiet. It's always fun to see that you get busted out of a stalk and then somebody's chasing a butterfly like 2 meters behind you or whatever it is. But I guess it's all part of it. And then while we're on the pH etiquette and all that sort of stuff, guys, just one of the quickest ways to cross... I'm finding difficult words or to string words together here with this one. But ask personal questions. And the reason why I say that is the more personal questions you get to ask and have answers to, the quicker you guys build this unique relationship. Because it's kind of a weird thing that happens, right? You get this complete stranger in your vehicle for the next 10 days and you know absolutely nothing about him. Nothing. But the quicker you get personal, the quicker you learn about what makes him happy, or what makes him sad, or why is he doing this, what are the reasons behind a lot of the motivation, how successful he is. I often always started off with, what do you do for a living? And then we really get into it. And sometimes I overshare straight off the bat, but I think it's worked for me. It has. You build a very intense and intimate relationship immediately. I mean, I would say, my dad passed away when I was 15 years old. I struggled with this, and now I'm trying to rectify myself and build a better life for myself and my family and stuff. And guys, I think, I mean, I wouldn't know, but from the successful hunts we've had, you build that personal relationship, and it's a lot of fun. Because at the end of the day, you don't want anyone to feel sorry for you, because don't go and make a sob story about it. But yeah, just, this is what ticks me off. This is what makes me happy. I've got 2 beautiful daughters, this, that, and the next thing. And, just talk about your everyday life. And I guess that just breaks the ice a little bit quicker and easier, I guess. What makes a safari unforgettable? Let's quickly put a stop to... No, let's not put a stop. That's wrong. Let's let's bust a couple of myths here very quickly. Inches does not make a safari. How many animals you shot does not make a safari. And how much money you spent does not make a safari. What makes a safari is small moments that have led up to bigger moments and memories you get to live through time and time again. We have spoken about this thing about trophy hunting. When you look at an animal on the wall, you start, I did it today. I had my little scully on my desk and I looked at that scully and I was like, a month and a half's time, we'll be chasing fallow deer again. And I remember when I shot you. And I think that it's that feeling that you get. So all these memories, all these moments you have bring up some really cool feelings within inside of you. And it's that reminisce, that memory bank that we go back to time and time again that helps us appreciate what we did. It makes spending the money all worthwhile, chasing that specific species all worthwhile, spending time with family, spending time with friends, spending time with your new professional hunter, all worthwhile. Because you leave with a memory that's going to last you a lifetime, and you get to have that feeling, you get to unlock that feeling whenever you want. So when you look at that animal on the wall, whether it's a skull mount or a shoulder mount, no matter what, you get to relive that moment time and time again, and it never gets old. It's beautiful. Something extremely beautiful about that. I did a podcast with Stephen Townley Bassett many years ago, probably one of my first 10 podcasts I ever did. I would love to have him back on the show. And we spoke about how the Bushmen came up with various different paints and rock art, and the rock art places weren't used. People had this perception that these guys would be living there where they painted these rock arts. No, it was like almost like a church vibe where people went there to get not intoxicated but like high and do all these rituals and all this sort of thing. So it was like an opportunity for individuals to go to a place, paint these pictures on the wall and relive those moments time and time again. The Bushmen have been doing it. They had kilts or clothing materials made out of the animals that they hunted. Why? Not because it stopped their Johnny from getting sunburnt in the sun. No, because it's a memento from what they've done. It's a memento of being a hunter-gatherer, running through the bush, hunting down an animal, killing that animal, feeding their family. It's a memory that they get to hold on to. So that piece of springbuck skin that they had over their bodies, they get to reminisce with that as whenever they want. They get to unlock those memories whenever they want. And understanding why that is what you're on safari for is special. And you get to leave with that. I think to close off, one thing as professional hunters and as clients, we need to remember, you're going to be part of something so authentic. It's very, very difficult to put into words. But it's the actions, the memories, the moments, and the footsteps along the way that make those authentic experiences that much more palatable and enjoyable when we're there. And I think that's a very beautiful thing that we are able to do as individuals, as human beings. We unlock this primal instinct that we have to relive these moments and utilize this bred facility we have within us to be hunters. I think that's beautiful. I think that's special. And oftentimes we take it for granted. So remember what you are going there for. As clients, as professional hunters, remember why we do this. Keep it close to your heart. And understand that you're doing this to create lifelong memories, conservation, and all these things. And that shows incredible personal growth. So enjoy it. Enjoy it. Well, guys, that's it for this week's episode of the podcast. You have 48 hours to make sure your safari is a huge success. I hope this is enough tools to utilize when you do decide to come out. I hope the show season was as amazing as what I heard it was. And I look forward to scrolling through social media and to having conversations around campfires with many, many different hunters to hear how the season unfolded. To close off, we're almost on 4 million downloads. Thanks to you. And I can't thank you guys enough. It's been one hell of a journey. So, if you haven't yet, last call to action, please hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications. And if you enjoyed this episode, interact with it. Drop a thumbs up, drop a comment, whatever you guys like to do. And it goes a long way to making sure that this dream of mine stays alive. But as always, for myself, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and always stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.